Hi everyone, we have Wonder. So we are going to understand a few of the models which can be utilized for purposefully utilized for the contouring process for developing the language modules. So give me a moment before I start. Right. So the word of the day is contour or contouring, and this particular word with the hypothesis of understanding the landscape in the biggest fashion whatsoever for the quantum to work the way it has to work, because there are a lot of models around the quantum stuff also on the GitHub and others, but our team, which is very global in nature, we are always of the opinion to create new data sets and make it so robust that the input data takes care of the output. So looking into that data set, just give me a moment, I'll fetch it. Okay. Okay. We'll look into the tagging part first, and the first letter, yesterday we talked about that for the coders to work on the best of the basis, the language has to be English, because English is universally understood by everyone. Perhaps a lot of synthetic data has been developed and being pushed through these LLM models, and because of that, the whole ideation of whatever has been developed, it is not gaining the momentum, or the momentum it had to gain. Perhaps I would rather say we are on the timeline of 2025, and I like to take you back to the timeline of 2008, 2007, how internet was understood as a portal to folks globally. And right now, because the input data set is wrong, in terms of wrong data set is being pushed through this medium, that itself is creating a lot of fiction, and that fiction has to be avoided at all cost. So we are okay, how the models can be utilized, and models perhaps take it as a component. So model is equal to component, component is equal to element, element is equal to compounding, because as a lexicographer you are able to write it in a manner whereby the framework itself changes, and because the framework changes, the input data it goes bonkers in very simple words. That being said, let's talk about this. So post the new world order, which we have been discussing over the years, the first tag which I wish to discuss today is A61B5/02055, which states evaluation of cardiovascular condition and temperature. So this particular tagging is able to pinpoint both the cardiovascular condition and the temperature, because temperature itself is if okay, I'll give you an example. In a control manner, and for the control manner to happen, it really needs a lot of effort, it needs a lot of fiat currency. I mean, even being a unicorn, it's not helping us, because we are not able to create that control data set. For that, we need more resources, we need more collaborations from the pharmaceutical sector, and I'm in talks with the pharma sector in Europe, and we are trying to I would rather say the best phase would be, we are trying to connect to pharmaceutical companies based out in Europe, who are still in the very nascent stage, and it's a collab between the incubation hub of the college so we can utilize the equipments and everything, so the investment doesn't need to go into the equipments, and if we need anything we can always get the equipments from China. And it has to be data sets of control where the candidates are selected on a lot of parameters, and at the same point of time they have to be rewarded. What, like, obviously in many of the cases what is happening right now is saying that nothing was done on the animals, or if even if you're purchasing a perfume and all. But for the real data set to happen, we need candidates who have EQ, IQ, who have good historical data set and utilize their resources. At the same point of time they can continue with their work, but we need to have those consent form in place, and the consent has to be real. We need to explain them everything in reality. These are the parameters which we are looking at, and this is how we are going to monitor you, because the monitoring has to be done. I have been doing it, of course, on myself for almost now how many years? I don't want to even get into it, because I was selected as one of the candidates to join a European company way back when I entered into intellectual property rights, and it was a bond of 2 years. And the likelihood of not joining, I had my own reasons, so I politely said no at that point of time. But I started working on my own self in terms of what I wish to do with the data sets and how I can use those data sets to not only be my better version, but how that data can be utilized for the philanthropic work in the healthcare sector, in the pharma sector. And I can't say, and I don't want to claim anything right now, because I'm part of a lot of stakeholders. I'm CSO of one of the best longevity companies, that is Longevity in Time Biotech. So it's not a claim, it is the reality. You can see the effect of whatever we have been doing, and obviously I'm one of the test candidate for that protocol, and I'm happy that I've been able to do well within the protocol. But it is very important to monitor the parameters, and I'm taking it to 1,000 plus parameters. It's just that once I get the companies on board, I already have a lot of things sorted out. It's just that the coalition has to happen, and with that coalition and with the quantum work we have been doing over the years, I am of the opinion that we are already there as far as whatever we have been doing over the years. Okay, so the next one is A61B1 4x0/4x096. Its operational features of endoscope characterized by electronic signal processing of image signals during the use of endoscope using AI. I have done a lot of work on magnetic therapy, and I would rather say I had deep dive into the magnetic therapy for almost a year, and this is way back. We are in 2025, so this is almost more than 15-16 years ago. I worked extensively on the magnetic therapy and understanding that the way the atoms and the molecules are dancing in whatever way it is. I'm just using the simple words because I don't want to use the scientific words here. So I was able to utilize that knowledge and put it to use for the models to work. Then there's something called as control thereof, and for the control, control is very important. For that, it has to be in an environment which is taking care of the other parameters, which is environmental factors. So when I say environmental factors would be the temperature at the entrance, the temperature of different rooms, the temperature of anything and everything. And it is already stated fact by PubMed and the others, and the other scientists have worked on it, that if the body is able to sleep in a cryo kind of a situation, that is, I myself, I have gone to almost, I don't want to claim it, I don't want to talk about it, but I have slept in a very cold way, and very naturally, and that itself is one of the healers to longevity stuff. So for that to happen, we need to have these communes, and communes for real, not communes in the name of trademark. We need to have these communes for real, and that will and that has to work in 2025 and beyond. And I'm trying to get this done ASAP. I have identified places in Denmark. I have identified places in Bavaria. I have identified places in San-Marino. So it has to be Europe, because that gives the natural condition of that winter feel. And doing the experiments, obviously it's an experiment and an experience, and for that we need real candidates who are who can vouch for, like, if somebody works at CERN, there are times where you're not even coming to your what you call as your home country or hometown for next 10-15 years. We need that kind of commitment, and that's the vesting clause we are looking at. And yeah, that's the basis of this. Okay, then we have monitoring, I would say, candidate using a global network, that is telephone networks, internet, that is A61B5/0022. Measuring blood flow is A61B5/026. Okay, activity level A61B5/1118. EEG A61B5/291, bioelectric electrodes adapted for particular uses in EEG, that is electroencephalography. Then we have the others, which is supervised learning. I love the fact of supervised learning, and that is under G06N3/09. Biofeedback A61B5/486. Combination of networks G0N3045. And if you're using CAD, that is H04R 2225/77. That's the design aspect of hearing aid chips, molds, and housings. Okay, people have been, watching movies and all these sci-fi movies which talks about cathode rays. And somehow I was, over the years, I have been around cathode rays for so many reasons. So people go through MRI for no reasons, just to get that magnetic stuff, and thinking that that is going to stimulate the atoms and the molecules of the body. I would personally say that MRI is not the right way to activate oneself, though it's a movie kind of situation. But yes, honestly, the cathode rays which I undertook over the years, it was very intentional, because I have been experimenting with my own self for the longest time I know, since childhood, and being prone to take some kind of understanding of whatever I could get onto in my early years. So what is important here is for the amplitude and the amplitude shift on the compression, H04R25/356. So this is done. Okay, ECG also, let's take this into consideration. That is electrocardiography, heart-related electrical modalities. That is A61B5/318. This is also important, A61B5/14532. That is the measurement of the blood in vivo, gas concentration, pH values, where you're taking the body fluids or tissues. That is fluid, cerebral tissue, measuring glucose, or tissue impedance measurements. So these are very fancy terms. We have done better work over the years, and that is still a straight secret. So that is the data we never share with anyone. Okay, that being done, let's get into how this works. This is simply, I would say, it's an hypothesis, but when the data is working well, or the candidate is showing good results, then that is what the efficacy is all about. And that is when these European companies are finding their patent applications in India. They're not getting through the section 3 because they're not sharing the test results. Because understand one thing, if the European company doesn't have their candidates from India, and that is also, the candidate has to give consent 100%. It's not that you take indirect consent. That is very wrong. And particularly for the models to work, you need to have 100% consent. And with that 100% consent, only the learning models are going to work. Otherwise, it's a big null and void. This is done. Let's just finish this. I'll just talk about methodology. Is basically simple. See, we already talked about the understanding that the super app model is broken because everybody is doing the same thing and you're just copying the model. But if you're not a good copycat, then whatever you're doing is never going to work in the quantum world, because healthcare parameters with the quantum world is able to, I would say, is able to attain a lot of things in terms of you can look into the patent I filed as a defensive publication that answers most of the questions. So and the mapping itself has to be based on mood itself is okay. In normal ways, it's always PP and fasting. So something is like when you wake up in the morning, the candidate is waking up in the morning and you're taking the blood sample of the person, which is like a set protocol of the I would say the way the MBBS and the others work. But this is not applicable for the learning models when we're talking about utilizing the another portal for getting the results. And for that, you have to pick the right agent in real time for logging the activities patterns and what activities the person is going through. I'm seeing a lot of people, wearing those glucose, I don't know what not, trying to just control their parameters. What is more important is the lifestyle change if something of that sort happens at an early age, because sedentary workers are much more in numbers, stating the fact this was not the case pre-2000. So the number of sedentary workers have increased tremendously. Nobody talks about that kind of data set. I haven't seen that data set, at least. Even I do peer reviews from time to time, going through a lot of data, and particularly even if I want to leave the healthcare sector, somehow the healthcare sector is vouching for me because the kind of background I come with, in the understanding of so much work I have already done and spent those many hours of my life just researching in the deep tech part at very early stage. Right now there are so many companies based out wherever they are in the world. They want me to train the data set, but the problem statement here is that not only comes with clauses, because that can be utilized anyway, anywhere and everywhere. So I need to know where that data would be utilized. That is not point number one, but this is a very important contention. And the other part here is having ESOPs and stakes in the company, because it is your intellect which is going to make that company the next Fortune 10 companies of the world. So that is something the candidates need to look into when they are being questioned by these enterprises, because at the end of the day, you are the real asset and the candidate is the real asset. Now, how the candidate is able to understand and embrace it is the question they need to answer. Okay, in this particular case, okay, what are we running? Okay, a lot of mean plus function claims. I'm not getting into the function mean claims. I would rather just I've given you a little bit of peep into what we are trying to achieve by creating a vesting clause of 10 to 15 years, and it's kind of a CERN only. So CERN is an authority, you can go online and check it out. But here it is more with the healthcare parameters, and yeah, now we have to understand who are the candidates who can have communication with the outside world through this medium of World Wide Web. Today maybe I'm communicating through this medium. Maybe I might sign off, or I might just sign up for something where I sign up that I'm not going to come online anymore for next maybe 5 years, 10 years. And this is something I'm really thinking right now in terms of what we are achieving in longevity in time. Biotech, that is one part, and the mission and vision is quite good. So Oleg Tetrin, he's a producer of movie Chef. Chef is a real movie. It's not that I'm talking about something which does not exist. And he and his team has already tied up with the government in Malay is Maldives, and developing those healthcare stuff on the islands which are still unexplored. So you can understand this project is much bigger, and whether this will be part of what I'm trying to do with the Europe, that is another question to be answered, because physically I have never met Oleg, but we have been working after the lockdown, and right now we have been able to overcome Alice in US. So Alice is a case study for the patenting part. So Oleg is of the opinion that he wants a patent and all that stuff. And our European patent is also pending, but we have been paying the annuity fees for the longest time. And let me tell you, the fee structure is quite high in EPO. And it's just at the last moment they are going to grant you the patent application. So quite excited about the overall journey we have. I wouldn't say cross, we are still in the journey of these so many chapters, which is like, for me, every day, which is 20, 24, 25 hours, whatever it is, it's one chapter. So one chapter ends and the next chapter starts. There are so many things to be executed in a small frame of time. So this is what I wanted to discuss. I've given you the peep, I've given you the tags, work around it, build your own models, and just try to be trustworthy in terms of the candidates which you select. And let me tell you, there are a lot of factors. The sensors don't work just like that. I mean, in a chemistry lab, even air can introduce some kind of error. So whether we are allowing that kind of error when we are working with a human body for the longevity and time biotech. So that is something you need to answer. Thank you for watching out this, and hopefully we are there. It's just a matter of time. We are in the month of October right now. Not couple of months. It's just in my head. I'm already in 2026. So looking forward to it. Thank you for watching out. Have a great day ahead.